Hello, welcome back to Storytime Telling with Law of Attraction. Um, Again, pulling from Neville Goddard, the one and only, and from The Law and the Promise. Again, if you're interested in purchasing this book, I got it at Barnes & Noble, $20, and has all these stories, all these testimonies of people who did his imagining and visualizing. And, if you think about it, when you're a kid, when you're daydreaming in class, we do it all the time. It was a natural instinct until adults told us to stop daydreaming and to stop, visualizing and believing and feeling things before they actually manifested. So we did it as kids. Why can't we do it as adults? It seems like it was a natural instinct at one point, right? Anyways, this story is about a lady who is a dance teacher, and she wanted to get her own studio, and she didn't have the funds or any means or connections to do so. But by visualizing and imagining, she created it to be so. Okay. As my story begins, at the age of 19, I was a mildly successful dancing teacher and continued in this static state for almost 5 years. At the end of this time, I met a young lady who talked me into attending your lectures. My thought upon hearing you say imagining creates reality was that the entire idea was ridiculous. However, I decided to accept your challenge and disprove your thesis. I bought your book, Out of This World, another good book, check that out, and read it many times. Still, unconvinced, I set myself a rather ambitious goal. My present position was an instructor with the Arthur Murray Dance Studio, famous studio, by the way, that started out in New York. And my goal was to own a franchise and be a boss of an Arthur Murray studio myself. This seemed the most unlikely thing in the world, as franchises were extremely difficult to secure. But on top of this, I was completely without the necessary funds to begin such an operation. Nevertheless, I assumed the feeling of my wish fulfilled, and night after night in my imagination, I went to sleep managing my own studio. 3 weeks later, a friend called me from Reno, Nevada. He had the Murray studio there and said it was too much for him to cope with alone. Look at that. And it only took 3 weeks. 3 weeks later, a friend called her. He offered me a partnership, and I was delighted. So delighted, in fact, that I hastened to Reno on borrowed money and promptly forgot all about you, meaning Neville Goddard, and the story of imagination. My partner and I worked very hard and were very successful, but after a year, I was still not satisfied. Natural human always wants more. You get one desire, oh, next. I began thinking of ways and means to get another studio. All my efforts failed. One night as I retired, I was restless and decided to read. As I looked through my collection of books, I noticed your slender volume, Out of This World. I thought of the silly nonsense I had gone through a year before getting my own studio. Getting my own studio. The words of my mind electrified me. I reread the book that night, and later in my imagination I heard my superior praise the good job we had done in Reno and suggest we acquire a second studio as he had a second location ready for us if we desired to expand. I reenacted this imaginal scene nightly without fail because she had realized, whoa, I got my own studio, and how did I not put it together? A year went by and she was just staring at the book on her shelf, Out of This World. I was like, holy shit, I manifested that. I did. And it was then when you get that surge of energy, you use that. Once you've manifested one thing, it's easy to go right in and manifest the next thing, because your confidence level and your belief in yourself and your abilities and your imagination goes up. I know that happened with me at my job. I was only part-time and making less, and then I just kept visualizing it, and you have to let go as to how things happen. But other people found better jobs, and some people just were really not good at it, and they finally let them go after a long period of time. And I actually had transferred from a different location to where I am now, and at this location I moved up so fast, within 2 months of doing affirmations and visualizing. So just one point being, If you manifest something, it's easier to manifest the next thing because your belief, confidence just goes straight up. So use that energy, go full forward with it, and manifest the next thing. Alright, where was I? So now she's trying to manifest her second studio. So she keeps visualizing. I reenacted this imaginal scene nightly without fail. 3 weeks from the first night of my imaginal drama, it materialized almost word for word. My partner accepted the new studio in Bakersfield, and I had the Reno studio alone. Isn't that so funny? The first time, it was 3 weeks that it took to get a call from her friend from Reno. And then the second time, a year later, when she started visualizing again, it was another 3 weeks. 3, 7 powerful numbers with spirituality. Now I was convinced the truth of your teaching and never will forget it. Now I wanted to share this wonderful knowledge of imaginal power with my staff. I tried to tell them of the marvels they could accomplish, but I was unable to reach many, although one fantastic incident resulted from my efforts to tell this story. A young teacher told me he believed my story, but said it would have probably happened anyway. In time, he insisted the entire theory was nonsense, but stated that if I could tell him something of an incredible nature that would actually happen and which he could witness, then he would believe. What's so funny is that normally when you condemn somebody, like if you condemn, there was a story in this book about a woman condemning another woman for falling in love with a married man, and it was only a year later that she ended up doing the same thing. And what's funny about this story is that this person started out not believing in Neville and thinking that the entire idea was ridiculous, and then she meets somebody who thinks it's nonsense. And now the tables have turned. Anyways, the Reno studio is the most insignificant in the entire Murray system because of the small population count in the city itself. There are over 300 Murray studios in the country with much larger populations, therefore providing greater possibilities to draw from. So my test was this. I told the teacher that within the next 3 months, 3 again, 3, 3, 3, at the time of a national dance convention, the Little Reno studio would be for the foremost topic of conversation at the convention. Sorry, I'm really tired. He calmly stated this was quite impossible. That night, when I retired, see, Old English, who says that? When I retired, I felt myself standing before a tremendous audience. I was speaking on creative imagining, and felt the nervousness at 2 in the morning of being before such a vast audience. But I also felt the wonderful sensation of audience acceptance. I heard the roar of applause, and as I left the stage, I saw Mr. Murray himself come forward and shake my hand. I reenacted this entire drama night after night. It began to take on tones of reality, and I knew I had done it again. My imaginal drama materialized down to the last detail. My little Reno studio was the talk of the convention, and I did appear on that stage just as I had done in my imagination. But even after this unbelievable but actual happening, the young teacher who threw me the challenge remained unconvinced. He said it happened way too naturally, and he was sure it would have happened anyway. Okay. I did not mind his attitude because his challenge had given me another opportunity to prove, at least to myself, that imagining does create reality. From that time on, I continued with my ambition to own the largest Arthur Murray dance studio in the world. So, this happens sometimes too. Like, the people will go into competitions and they don't think they could be first best, so they'll go for second or third, and that'll happen. And then once their confidence goes up, then they'll move to second and then first. So little by little, we shape our beliefs and we move up. Night after night in my imagination, within 3 weeks, oh my God, what is with the 3? Mr. Murray called me and offered a studio in a city of 1.5 million people. And back then, that was a hell of a lot of people in the 1920s. It is now my goal to take my studio, the greatest and biggest in the entire system, and of course, I know it will be done through my imagination. E.O.L. Jr. Yep. Wow. So she moved from not believing to it to getting her first studio in Reno, and then getting the Reno studio to be popular and getting a second one, and then it doesn't finish, but she wanted to own the biggest one, which she was called up by Mr. Murray himself. It's a very big dance company. It's still around to this day. I know I've seen some in LA and Orange County, so originated from the East Coast. But thank you for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, stay positive. Keep believing in yourself. No, it's hard. What I do that really helps is to look myself in the mirror and to do like EFT and release your blocked beliefs. And a good way to do that, a really good subliminal channel is called Quotable Integrity. And they have a blockage one to release limiting beliefs. So I would listen to that and do the EFT and look at yourself in the mirror. But just know that it's a journey. It's going to take time. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.